All right, guys. So we've been traveling around a little bit today, but we're starting off the bulk of our video blog today is going to be mostly inside of the Castle District, up on top of the hill in Buda, right? So we talked about how there was like two different sectors. There's Buda and there's Pest, right? And so behind me, actually, you can see the Danube River, right? So that splits the city down the middle, and then that's Pest over on the other side. Now, what you can actually see as well in the background here is what? Sorry, no, you're good. All right, anyway, sorry, I had to move out of the way for somebody's picture. But right here behind me, as you can see right there, so that's actually the Hungarian Parliament building, which I'll throw up a better picture of right now. It's very, very cool. But where we're standing right now is on the Fisherman's Bastion, right? So the Fisherman's Bastion was actually completed in the early 19th century as an outcrop view of the Castle District area, right? So you can actually see all the way over the city, and in front of the in front of the Fisherman's Bastion. Y'all are literally doing this on purpose. You're messing me up, you know that? All right, anyway, by the way, this is the brother-in-law that I'm staying with. This is my man Anthony, right? He was doing some of our B-roll footage for us, some transition stuff, and that's the wife right there. Say hi, everybody. Yeah, what he said. So anyway, but the Fisherman's Bastion was actually built the early 19th century, and very cool stuff about it. It's mainly the kind of a relic towards Hungarian influence in the early 19th century and a show of their really, really big obsession with restoring their historical stuff. But as you can see, it is an absolutely gorgeous view over the entire city, right? Now, some of you are like, well, I can't see anything. It's kind of foggy. I can't control the weather, so leave me alone. But behind us also is the Matthias Church, right? Originally built in the by St. Stephen, which there is a really, really dope statue of right there, which I'll also throw up another picture in a minute. But we're going to talk about a lot of little different things. But mainly what I'm here to tell you about and explain is just kind of how a castle is not what you really think it is. So I'm going to throw up a picture of like your stereotypical castle real quick, showing you that like it's not just one central keep where rich people live and everyone lives outside of it. What a castle actually is a fortified city, right? So it's literally like some of the original retaining walls that are actually in the area actually fortify the city and keep the population safe during times of raids, right? For example, the original Matthias Church right there behind me was originally constructed in the early 1000s AD, but then during the first Mongolian invasion in the 1250s, it's completely destroyed, completely ransacked. And then it was rebuilt in the 1300s, and then in the 17th century, they actually tried to restore it in the original style or in a Baroque architectural style, but a lot of it was really, really unsatisfactory. But then in the early 1800s or late 1800s, they actually rebuilt it in complete Gothic architecture. Now, the Gothic architecture is the style of the Middle Ages. You can see all the pointed windows, pointed tops, right? And also the glazed tiles on top. It's an absolutely gorgeous building. But this is where we're going to be starting today, right? So we're in the Castle District. The big things that I'm trying to show you today are, of course, the Buda Palace itself, the castle building where the royals have lived for hundreds of years itself. Also the Chain Bridge, which is actually down over there. And then also we're going to be going and hopefully stopping by the Hungarian Parliament as well. So let's get going, though. Let's keep moving around. We might even eat a little something a little bit later. So we'll see you guys around, all right? All right, guys, so where we're starting out today is out front of Matthias Church, right? And as you can see really quick, very, very tall, very, very intense Gothic-style church. Really cool things about it was actually original construction started in the 1000 AD era under King Stephen I, right? The very first Hungarian king, the guy that cut his uncle up into 4 pieces that I talked about in the first vlog. So I'll show you a statue of him really quick just so you can understand the prominence of King Stephen and why everybody thought he was so important. Really cool stuff about this church, though. It is a big part of transitional Hungary, right? So it was originally built in the 1000s, then it was completely destroyed in the 1250s by the Mongolians, and then after that they had rebuilt it to 13th century Gothic style, right? As you can see behind me, like in elements of Gothic architecture, stained glass windows, pointed areas of the roof, different style like glazed shingles, right? Very, very tall bell towers, which are very, very intense. And the inside is very, very nice, but it costs money to get in there. And this is meant to be a vacation, not necessarily where I'm shelling out every dollar I own. right? And a lot of the churches during this era look very, very similar. A lot of very beautiful frescoes and things like that inside. The other cool part about it is after it was destroyed in the 1250s by the Mongolians, then rebuilt in the 13th century, well, then the Ottoman Turks came in and took over, and then it was turned into a mosque, actually, up for the 150 years of their occupation. Then the really cool thing about it as well is this thing has seen the coronation of several different Hungarian kings and also the coronation of several different Holy Roman emperors, right? It's a very famous site inside the Castle District, and it's also really cool as well because in World War II it was very badly damaged. I'm going to throw up a picture really quickly and you can actually see the bullet holes because this bad boy was used as a camp by the Nazis and the Soviets during World War II because remember Hungary actually allied with Nazi Germany, and then when the Soviets came in, they actually took over this area and camped inside of this very church. Very cool stuff. It's our first stop on the Castle District area, right? But now we're going to keep on moving, and I think we're going to head to Buda Castle, like the palace area, like mainly. And we're going to talk about the chain bridge, and then we're going to end the day in the Turkish baths, right? Let's head that way. All right, guys, so right now we're standing inside of something that I didn't even know about, and I learned literally about 30 seconds ago, and it's so cool. But anyway, so the really neat thing about this is the Church of Mary Magdalene, right? And this is the only still standing medieval monument that in its original form from the early, like, I think it's the 12th century, right? So the 1100s, okay? 1100s AD. So Middle Ages, like we've been talking about in class, right? So you can see some of the, like, it's a very, very large bell tower, okay? That's the original bell tower still standing. And it's really neat because it actually, when the Ottomans took over, excuse me, when the Ottomans actually took over for their 150-year occupation following the Mongolian invasion, so from like 1300 to 1450/1490s, this was the only remaining place of Christian worship, all right? And so later on, though, they're going to notice that, the Turks are, and they're going to turn this into yet another mosque, right? Well, some of y'all are like, how are you standing in a church? This is lame. Another church? Well, you're not even inside of it. Here's the crazy part. I am actually inside of this church, right? I am inside of the church, standing on the floor. As you can see, that's the altar up there. This thing was completely destroyed in 1945 when the Germans bombed Budapest when they were retreating away from the Soviets, right? So literally you can see like that right over here on the side where those ladies are standing. That's how you got into the church. That up there is the altar, as you can see right there. And that's one of the original windows. The walls have been completely blown out. I'm standing right now where some of the pews would have been sitting, right? So it was completely destroyed. And this just shows you some of the havoc, right? And a lot of the places we're actually going to today, it's the second version of them because during World War II, they were just completely ransacked. So this is the Mary Magdalene Church and the Bell Tower Mary Magdalene, one of the only still standing medieval monuments that lasted throughout World War II. So cool. Just learned about it. All right, so we're going to be heading towards, I think, the castle now. See you there. All right, guys, welcome back. So as you can see, we're now standing on the actual Buda Castle grounds, right? So this is the area where the entire royalty has lived for the entire era of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, all the way back to the Middle Ages with the christening of St. Stephen, their first actual king, right? So this is really, really neat because we'll actually be going down here later on to the chain bridge, which is the actual main bridgeway that connects Buda to Pest and is actually anchored into the main Castle Hill area. So a couple cool things about the castle, though, you'll notice. For being a middle-aged castle complex, doesn't look very Middle Ages-like, right? Well, the thing about it is this is probably about the 6th version of the castle itself. This is the most remnant one when Franz Joseph, during the late 1800s, early 1900s, was actually the king of Hungary when he actually was the dual monarch of the Austrian Empire / Hungarian Empire, also known as the Austro-Hungarians, right? So, because as we know, down there, at the parliament, is where the actual government was centered, right? That is the entire area where their government, but Franz Joseph would actually reside here on the castle complex. Now, as you can see as well, back here on this angle, it's a very large, very expansive Baroque style palace. Baroque means like going back to the Renaissance era, right? Going away from Gothic architecture, and then like, so after Gothic architecture came Renaissance, and then following Renaissance came classical architecture, and then it was a return to that Renaissance architecture with Baroque styling. So we have pillars, the green domes and roofing in the back, as well as large like parts of different statues, bronze sculpted as well. Now the crazy part about it is, like I said, very different version, is what I'll be showing you when we talk about the chain bridge, is the effects that World War II had on this magnificent castle area, right? So let's go ahead and start heading down to the chain bridge area, and then we'll pick up the rest of the tour from there. All right, guys, so we're down here at the chain bridge, right, as you can see in the background. So the coolest thing about the chain bridge is this is considered to be one of the national symbols of Hungary, right? And it's located here in Budapest, and it connects the Buda side, which we're standing on right now, okay, to the Pest side, which is on the opposite side of the river. And of course, the Pest being the larger side, it's one of the main arteries of the city. But the coolest thing about it, it was actually began construction in about 1849 following the attempted revolution against the Habsburg Empire, right? So after 1849, when they united Austria and Hungary together to become the Austro-Hungarian Empire, this was actually one of the first funded projects to try and show the dominance of Hungarian influence and the dominance of their national zeal. Now, one of the neatest things about it, though, it was opened up very shortly after in the late 1850s, and it served as like one of the biggest monuments to Hungarian architecture. However, yet again, the pictures that I'm about to throw up, you can see the absolute destruction of the bridge during World War II, following the Nazi siege of the bridge itself. The entire bottom was knocked down. The only thing remaining was the southbound archway, and it was absolutely destroyed. And then you can actually see Buda Castle in the background, which was also, which you can see from here, that entire area completely burnt out. So the last stop for the day that we're going to be making after the chain bridge, though, but it's actually a gorgeous bridge. As you can see right now, the lights are starting to turn on. Like, all of the lights are beginning to turn on, and the city lights up at night, and it's absolutely beautiful, as you saw last night. But the last thing we're going to be doing for the day is we're going to be heading to a Turkish bath, which, because Hungary, as the wife knows, is known as the city of spas, right? And that's all from the Ottoman influence when they actually conquered the area for about 150 years, right? So we're about to start heading that way. We'll see you guys over there.